We've got MMA ref Bill Bookwalter. I've known Bill for years. He's a former fighter. He fought as an AMI, he fought as a pro, and then decided, hey, that the next step in his career was to become a ref. So we've got lots of questions to ask him.
All right, so let's start this off. I got a question for you, Bill. In fights, usually you see in a lot of fights, things happen where the ref got to get in between, make certain calls. Some people agree with them, some of them don't. So I want to see what your take is on, warnings. Like, how many warnings do you give a fighter before you deduct a point from them? Whether it's, grabbing onto the cage or eye pokes, is there a rule, or when do you take a point away?
The protocol that a lot of commission, I'm in Virginia, New Jersey, Delaware, and PA are the actual state athletic commissions that I'm involved with. A lot of times, if we can, the protocol is soft warning, hard warning, point. Now, if that first foul creates a lot of damage and you feel it changes the fight, you can skip right by that soft warning and give a hard warning. You know what I mean?
As in, if it's a crucial point in the fight where the fighter could have possibly won or done significant damage, but the fighter did something illegal, then you take a point, is what you're pretty much saying.
Well, here's the thing. If was it to the point where it was a low inside leg kick and a guy changed angles and it hit him low, then no, probably not a point. If a guy was clearly down and you see a guy line him up and throw a knee, the intent may not have been malicious. He might have forgotten where he was, but if a guy's on a knee and then you throw a knee, how can you not say that was intentional? You may have got caught up in the moment, but you definitely used your leg muscles to rear back and knee him while he was down. You know what I mean? Right. So it's like the NBA. There's contact on every play. The referee kind of uses his discretion. Did it really affect what was going on? Yeah. The NFL, there's holding on every play. Every play on the other side of the field where the ball's not even at, there's holding. Is a referee going to flag that? Probably not. Unless it had a significant impact on the play, or it was just so egregious that he can't not call it. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things. If I throw a low kick and it just grazes the guy's cup, and he's brushing it off, giving me I'm okay within a second. Am I really going to stop the fight and go, okay, here's a hard warning for a low kick? It's kind of like, nah, it really didn't impact the fight. He's signaling he's okay, doesn't need time. Let's keep going. It's relative in a lot of cases,
Well, what about fingers in the cage though? I mean, we're talking about extreme, points that can, change the fight drastically. But what about just stuff like, fingers in the cage?
Well, here's the thing. Fingers slip through the cage all the time. I mean, if you got me pressed up against the cage and you're pushing forward as hard as you can, there's a real tendency for a finger to get stuck in the cage. Did it stop a takedown is what I'm looking for. Did it alter the position of the fight? I mean, now granted, there's some guy who it might not change the course of the fight. My God, he'll have his fingers in the cage like 20, 30 times. And that's when you go over to him between rounds and you try and reach him and you say, hey, knucklehead, this could potentially cause a problem. If this guy really goes to rip for a takedown and your fingers are in the cage, you're tying my hands here. You know what I mean? Don't let it get to that. And hopefully that resonates home. We have some really intelligent fighters and we have some fighters that just, you're wondering what the heck, you're basically giving me no outs here. I don't ever want to take a point if I don't have to, or I don't even want to be involved in the fight. You shouldn't even notice I'm there. You know what I mean? That's a successful fight is you go, hey, who is that bald, ugly ref? We don't want to be involved in the fight. We want to fly so low under the radar. And it's like I said, it's one of those relatives. Would you really want a referee calling a fight where he's deducting points for every single little infraction, just black or white? By the, your finger was through the cage. There's your warning. Your finger was through the cage. It didn't impact the fight, but -1. And you're getting fights that are scored 25-23. You don't want that. You don't want that. No. That would be a terrible sport.
Right.
It'd be like soccer. Guys faking stuff and flopping all over the place, and It would be impossible to officiate.
Orlando is telling me I'm falling asleep. What the? Anyway, no, because I find this very interesting. So, Bill, I have to ask you, and this, of course, we're talking about hypotheticals here, but at the end of a round, what signals, what is the end, the official end of the round? Is it the bell, or is it when you as a referee step in between the two fighters? What is the end of the round?
I'll tell you what. Sometimes, and I know what you're referring to. Sometimes people talk a little too quick. They say things a little too weird. Listen, the bell is the end of the round for everybody. You don't throw strikes after the bell. It lets the referee know the round is done. The crowd knows the round is done. The judges know the round is. The fighters know the round is done. You're not just allowed to wail on somebody because I wasn't there that split second and called for a break. That bell is for everybody. And we actually went over that. I was in training in Philadelphia with Big Dan and some members of the Pennsylvania State Athletic Commission on Saturday, and we addressed some of the new rules. So the bell is for everybody. Sometimes guys just like to talk to get their camera time, and they start just talking nonsense. The bell is for everybody. The bell ends the round.
Well, Bobby,
Zero
I gotta
Bill.
Well, Bill, I gotta tell you, I just spoke with Bobby Wambacher just before I came on here, and I asked him, a similar question, and he was saying, sometimes it gets really loud in there. Have you ever had issues, hearing the bell or hearing the 10-second clapper before?
I'll be honest with you. Yeah, man. I'll tell you what. Some of these fights that I do in New Jersey, especially Ring of Combat, Lou Neglia, man, he's got that crowd really close to the cage. I don't know if you've ever been to the Tropicana in Atlantic City or seen Lou Neglia's setup. Really great show. He has those grandstands right near the cage, and Lou's going to put you on your card if you sell tickets. So everybody that's on there, you got your Julio Arce types, your Frank Buenafontes, you got Mirab Divishvili. I can't say his name. He's one of Matt Serra's guys from New York. I mean, these people come in droves to support these guys in New Jersey. This crowd is loud. I mean, really, really loud. There's been times where guys, everybody's trying to win the round at the end of the round, and they're trying to do something significant and flurry and hit hard. Our timekeepers do a really, really good job of clacking that 10-second bell. And actually, if you watch a lot of referees, we'll actually, even though our eyes are on the fighter, we'll point with one hand at the timekeeper. And the timekeeper will see that with the eyes, be like, oh, okay, he heard me. And right there, I'm already counting down in my head, 10, 9, 8, 7. So I know when to close the distance. At about 5, you'll see us start to close the distance. Any timekeeper, if he hits that clacker and I don't point at him, he knows I didn't hear him. And he'll start laying on that thing. So no, I personally have never had an issue with that, but yes, it does get loud. You have to be aware where you're at.
Yeah, Bill, what is that thing anyway? It looks like two pieces of wood with a hinge,
Like third
and
grade.
and they whack, whack, whack.
Some guys use 2 blocks. Other guys will take that hammer, and instead of hitting the bell, they'll hit that wooden piece right beside it. You know what I mean? Timekeepers all have their own personalities, just like referees. And,
okay.
In their world, and they are correct. In their world, for that night at that time, that's their time. That's their time. They're the star at that point when it's time to either clack the bell, blow the whistle for 10 seconds, or they take it pretty serious, and I appreciate that about them.
Yeah, that's great. That is great. Well, another thing I wanted to ask you, Bill, was okay. So we've seen refs, under criticism for letting a fight go too long, especially in like a ground and pound situation. Let's take that.
Okay.
Letting the fight go too long or stopping it too soon. And it seems like it's a very, very small window for getting it just right. I don't imagine that there's like a set number. Like, okay, when one fighter is dang-a-da-dang-a-da-dang-a-dang, you count 8 punches and then you stop. Like, this not, what are the rules that you go by for that type of thing, for stopping the
Rule number 1, there are no rules. It's like snowflakes. Every situation is different.
Okay.
I'll criticize myself. Back when I was first getting out of I wasn't far enough removed from fighting. In my opinion, for where I'm at now as a referee, I used to let a couple things go too long, because I put myself in that fighter's body. I was like, all I would want at night is to know that I wouldn't want the ref to think I stopped it early, so I don't want this fighter to think that about me. And over the course of 5 years, I've gotten better. I've changed that mentality. If a guy has I don't want to say no chance of winning, but we all watch fights. The Ellenberger Masvidal fight. His foot got caught in the cage. Yes, it ended in a TKO.
Yeah, that was weird.
It could have maybe been turned to a no. Do you really think Ellenberger was going to win that fight? I mean, he was really getting handled. It would have taken a miracle. I mean, there was a definite class difference going on there. You know what I mean? Now here's the thing. Say Masvidal was winning like that and had got his foot stuck in the cage, and the referee called it a TKO win for Jake Ellenberger. That would have been a hard one to justify. You know what I mean? Oh, sorry. So yeah, there is no rule. There is no. I mean, sometimes guys are too tough for their own freaking good, man. They're getting wailed on, and they can take a beating, and they're still punching back at the guy, but they're losing every single exchange. It's just going to get worse. And like Ted said, there's that fine line between where you're letting them fight and that one that gets them out of there on a stretcher, and everybody's calling for your arrest, and that you should never referee fights again, and you should face criminal charges. You know what I mean? It's like, and the fans seriously say this about you. They're like, oh, that guy should be arrested, or that guy's going to get somebody killed. Not getting somebody hurt is way more important than that guy talking crap on Facebook that, oh, the referee stopped my fight early and this and this and this. I sometimes tell the guys in the pre-fight rules meeting, I say, this can end one of two ways. I was like, and I tell them, I say, I'm okay with one of the two. You can go home and say that I stopped your fight early and I'm a jackass, or you can get out of here on a stretcher. I'm okay if you go home and say that I'm a jackass. I'm not okay with you going out of here on a stretcher. That's something I'll live with. And if people think that, or if a fighter would think that he got shortchanged tonight, so be it. I can't let somebody get out there on a stretcher. Not with the criticism that we're under these days, not with the head injuries that, they're asking us to answer for and stuff like that. If a situation is bad, you get in there, and it goes by feel. You know what I mean? It's no two plays are the same.
So I got to ask you, a lot of guys out there probably, wondering what the new rules are out there, what you guys are thinking about these new rules. Of course, Big John McCarthy is the guy who kind of put his head together to come up with some of these rules. I wanted to know if you had any rules that you wanted to add or maybe take away. I mean, let's start with this one. I'll make it easy. The 12-6 elbow. Do you think that should be legal to do, or do you think that that's fairly illegal?
I personally am not allowed to have an opinion on that. That's okay. I can only, I'm telling you, the commissions are real. You do have to be careful what you say and stuff like that. As of right now, the 12-6 elbow is illegal. I have no data to go on. I'm not a medical professional. Somebody way, way higher than me deemed that this was an illegal, dangerous move. So that's it. I have no opinion. I have no opinion on it.
Well, then let me ask you this, and I'm sorry about that last one.
No.
Are there any rules that you would like to see enforced, very soon? Because we just had these new ones come in. There's still more that can definitely be brought in. Do you have any on mind that you might speak out for? Say, hey guys, let's take a look at this. Maybe we can add this in on it.
Well, I'll tell you what. Some of the new things they added. The kidney strikes, or the heels to the kidney strikes.
Yeah.
I have never seen a fight or been involved in a fight where a fighter said, you know what, if I could have just healed to the kidney, it would have all been different. You know what I mean? It's like with the weight cutting injuries and stuff like that, a lot of guys are dehydrated and kidneys are a sensitive target area, but I really don't foresee that being that big of a. It seems like much ado about nothing on that one. You know what I mean? The hand up and down, the only thing that I think would have made it easier for us, when they first came up with these rules 25 years ago, the spirit of the rule wasn't a guy hunched over leaning on his hand. It was a guy on his back in like a north-south position taking knees to the head. That was the spirit of the rule, Okay. I would have much rather seen them if they were going to take the time to address that, just make it like football. You know what I mean? Knee up or knee down. Because that's something that the fighter throwing the strikes can see. He's not behind you. I can look down from any position. I can see if your knees are up or down. And in football, if you can lean over and balance on your hand, you're not considered a down runner. You know what I mean? You're considered up. You still have mobility. You have your soles of your feet are up. You can move. You can pick your hand up. To me, that's not really a down fighter. But the way the rules are right now, what they're going to is they're getting away from the whole fingertips. I'll give you a perfect example. We went over this Saturday in PA, and I go over this so thoroughly in my rules meeting. As you guys can tell, I'm a talker, you know. Because I go over this so thoroughly in my rules meeting, I've never had an issue with it. If your hand is supporting weight, PA wants a full palm down. Okay? So if you just bend over and put your fingertips on the ground, you are still an up fighter. When you're supporting weight and I have a full palm down, you're a down fighter. And I mean, I'm 2 feet away from the guys, and if I sense that there's even a slightest bit of confusion, I'm right in your face. He's still down. He's still down. He's still down. And then when the hand comes up, I say, he's up. And until that guy recommits to the ground, I mean, I've never had an issue with it, ever, you know?
Hey, Bill, we've got a question from Orlando Castro, the guy who thinks I'm falling asleep here. He said he's wondering about weight classes. What about new weight classes?
Oh, man, I'd love that. I would honestly love that, you know? Just for me, from, you know, I kind of sense where Dana White's coming from on a lot of his decisions and stuff like that. Right now, look at the WWE. Back when we were kids, and Dana White does blueprint his business off of Vince McMahon. He's gone on record and said that before. Yep. Vince McMahon is the king of pay-per-view. That guy can sell a pay-per-view every month to millions and millions. I mean, he could take this. Basically, Dana White's just kind of blueprinted what Vince McMahon did over the years. Okay.
Yeah.
Back when we were growing up, Hulk Hogan was the champion. We had one champion. It sold merchandise. It was big. It was big. Then all of a sudden, there was the Intercontinental Champion. And there was the Tag Team Champion. How many champions are out there now? The United States, the Intercontinental, the Hardcore, the World Champion, the Women's Champion.
Yeah, they got that new one now. It's like Universal Champ or whatever. It's like a red belt or something.
Okay, there you go. It's just marketing. Everybody's favorite person gets to be champion at some point or another. You sell more merchandise. You sell more pay-per-views. If Dana White had more weight classes per se to work with, he could headline more pay-per-views. Hey, this week's the 195-pound championship. Next week's pay-per-view is the 185-pound championship. The week after is the 205 championship. The week after that's the 215. Now we have 4 different headlining fights that people like to see title fights. They like to see high stakes for American as shit.
Yeah.
We like touchdowns, slam dunks, championships, knockouts. We like
it makes it feel important.
Events. Yeah, we like big deal events. More guys would get to be champion. There would be much less missing weight. I believe that. You know, I don't think guys.
People, sorry, Bill. It seems like some people have an issue with that, though. They say, it muddies things up. It'd be like boxing. You know, every 5 pounds or every 10 pounds, you know, is a belt. But I mean, I tend to agree with you and with Eddie that if you had it, maybe if you had it every 10 pounds, you could have more. Obviously, you'd have more champions and more title fights, and maybe there'd be less problems with weight cutting.
Well, I'll tell you what. It's just like I said. You looked at that WWE marketing game plan, and the more champions there are, the more superstars you have. A champion is a superstar. Whether it's Demetrius Johnson, you know, the bigger guys might not like him, but he's the favorite fighter of some of the, you know, lighter guys. The guys can relate to. The more champions you have, the better it is for not an overflow. But like you said, that once every 10 pounds, Dana White could sell more events. Guys could have bigger fan bases. You'd have less missed weight, you know. And like I said, the main thing, there was an article online the other week that said the UFC needs more superstars. They're in desperate need of a superstar right now.
Well,
you know what
basically
I mean?
Because John Bones Jones hasn't been around, Ronda Rousey isn't where she was. Connor's really the only big star that really is marketable right now. I mean, there's tons of other fighters out there with you know, star power, but not like Ronda or Connor.
Well, that's why they had to do business with GSP. That's why they had to make a deal with him. They needed him.
I'll tell you what, the Diaz brothers haven't fought God knows how long. They're still 2 of the biggest draws there is. You know,
I think they're holding out because they want millions, and I don't think that the UFC wants to pay them that much.
I would agree with you. That's kind of exactly what's going on. They want fights that are big deals. You know, I agree with that article right now. The U.S. There's seldom a fight anymore outside of Conor McGregor. You got to keep in mind. I see MMA all the time, man. to the point where I need a break from it sometimes. There's rarely even a UFC name that catches my eye, except for McGregor, Diaz.
Yeah.
You know, even the Brock Lesnar type, when they bring him in for once every 4 years, or well, I guess he's suspended now, but
Yeah.
the UFC could really use some new stars. You know what I mean? And I think more weight classes, giving a guy a belt, shipping him off to do Good Morning San Diego and Good Morning California and all these shows and getting him out there, it doesn't put the burden on one guy. I mean, when McGregor was leading up to fight Aldo, before Aldo got hurt the first time, they really put that guy on a world tour, to the point where after he got beat by Diaz, he said, "That's it." He said, "I'm focusing on training," because you know what? Every morning when McGregor was out there doing his PR and press schedule, Diaz was home training. You know, Ronda Rousey, she had the Fast and Furious, this and this and this and this and all these appearances. Holly Holm was off training every day. I mean, every day from the time she woke up to just focus on beating the shit out of Ronda Rousey. That's what happened. You know what I mean? So it really does put a burden on one guy to carry the torch, so to say, you know, to be the guy and promote the event. I think more weight classes and more stars would be, you know, a real good thing for Dana White from a business sense.
Here's the thing. I think it's important that I mention this for my listeners. Here's the thing. There's a lot of stars in the UFC right now that could be huge stars in the future, but the UFC, and they do a great job with promoting them. I think they need to put a little more oomph behind some of those superstars, and you've seen it lately this year and in the past year of them kind of cutting down the roster a little bit to kind of focus more on those superstars that are still in the roster, that are picking up a lot of the fans there. So when you're talking about Conor McGregor or Ronda Rousey, it's so rare to come across fighters like that. So they're truly special. They can't just be anyone. But the company has a huge part in making that person a star as well by doing those world tours.
You're 1,000% right. There are, every once in a while, there's a star. Make it a Justin Bieber type, or a Conor McGregor, or a Ronda Rousey, who here's in the beginning, you're not going to be anything, and they can self-make themselves. You know, they can make themselves. The others need a push. You're right. Look to the WWE. You know, it's the same blueprint. You know, whose turn it is to be champion and whose time it is to be a star depends on the push and the scenario that they set up for, you know, the wrestler X, whoever that might be. Yeah, I remember the days where Stone Cold Steve Austin was a bad guy, and all of a sudden you started hearing some people start to cheer for him. And then you bring out the boss, and he starts kicking the shit out of the boss. Well, now you're creating a star.
Because who wouldn't want to do that?
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. But no, I agree with you 100%. It's the UFC right now. They're holding on to a lot of old names like BJ Penn. They're trying to create that Yari Rodriguez guy that beat BJ Penn. You know, he's getting the street credit of beating BJ Penn from 15 years ago. The BJ Penn that fought Yari Rodriguez, there's probably 20 tougher fights in the UFC right now that Rodriguez could have had. But they're using that BJ Penn name power to try and, you know, gather his Hispanic base off this Rodriguez guy.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hey, he didn't beat BJ Penn 15 years ago. He beat, you know, he beat this year's BJ Penn.
He beat a shell of the BJ Penn that we all know about. The champion, the lightweight champion, the welterweight champion.
Look, guys. Everyone rags on BJ. He wasn't doing that bad in that fight up until that moment. I mean, the first round, it got to the point where it was like, oh, I'm getting a little nervous. But the first 2 minutes, he wasn't doing that bad. But he did lose, and it was hard to watch. But I don't think he was doing that bad. But I think we all agree that BJ Penn 10 years ago probably gives that guy a heck of a lot more run for his money than that. You know what I mean? I think. Oh yeah. You know, I mean, but the guy's getting the name power regardless. Yeah, it's still BJ Penn, you know, even regardless of what it is. Yeah, you made a good point. He's getting the street.
Hey, Bill, I got another ref question for you, Bill.
Sure.
So when you were learning about the craft of refereeing, how were you instructed to? Did you have to? You guys have to? I noticed you put your body on the line. You get when the round ends, you've got to put your body between the fighters. I mean, they tell you to do that. To kind of disregard. Yourself, and in order to stop the round, if it doesn't look like the fighters are going to stop on their own.
I have been instructed by a very mighty mighty man that you know here in the great state of Pennsylvania that says at the end of the round, if you have to, you take the punch. You do not you don't let it land. You get in there, and if the punch hits you, shake it off and keep officiating. Yes, you absolutely, you dive in there at if they're flurrying and they're throwing back and forth at each other pretty hard and that bell rings, yes, get in there. It's up to you to break it up. And if you're too old to do that, then you're probably too old to officiate.
Wow. So yeah, and one of our friends who are online with us here, they were saying that wondering about that, if that's the case, and I have, I'm been wondering the same thing. Yeah, thanks for clearing that up. I appreciate it, man. I mean, we've seen it. We've seen it happen, and we've seen refs get taken down. And you've had to defend yourselves, or sprawl out of things like that.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you this. If let's just say there was some videotape of a fight and the bell rang and I was going to go in, but I saw a punch coming and I shied away and a punch landed and hurt a fighter, I'd have some stuff to answer to on Monday.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. I'd have some stuff to answer to. You get in there and physically get them away from each other.
And it probably helps that you have a background in fighting then. To be able to take that punch, to be able to maybe see that punch coming. Would you say?
Yeah, I can still go a little bit. Enough to thwart I've seen it happen to Big Dan more than once.
Oh, yeah.
Guys are grabbing a hold of Big Dan after they're woozy and trying to grapple him to the ground and stuff. And yeah, it does happen.
So before we let you go, we got our next interview waiting
Sure.
on the side. What we like to do at this point is if there's any questions in the chat room, or if Ted has another question for you, before you give your tags and everything. Ted, is there anything going on in the chat room right now?
Yeah, Muradai has a question, and I think you kind of mentioned this a little bit, Bill, but the question is, do you go through the rules before the fight, and how clear do you make, to what degree do you make the rules clear, or how, I don't know how to put this exactly,
I got you.
How fine of a detail do you go through the rules?
Okay, here's the thing. If you try to go over every single rule, then the fighter will break the one rule you didn't go over and go, well, you didn't say that. You know what I mean? So you can't be crazy with it. But, I don't have to. I can go over the very important stuff that I've seen cause an issue, or that could cause an issue. And I'll be honest with you, Ted, maybe we can hook it up at one of these next events. If you wanted to come in with like a GoPro or thing and tape a rules meeting just to see exactly what goes on back there, I'd be more than happy to set that up for you. Yeah, we go over it really thoroughly. I've been in the rules meetings with referees sometimes before, and they'll look at all the fighters and go, hey, you guys know the rules. You have any questions? And that's it. And it's as short as that. I don't go over that short. I learn from my mistakes. My rules meeting, it doesn't last more than 5 minutes, but I let the guys know what I expect of them. I let them know about it's about appearance anymore. You could be not perfectly fine, but you could have gotten collapsed by a knee and you're regathering yourself, and none of the guy's punches are landing, and he's landed the first 5 on your gloves, and you're turtled up, and then the first 10, and in your head, I'm like, all right, I'm weathering the storm, I'm recovering. In my eyes, I see a guy who just took a big shot and he's turtled on the ground, covering up, not moving, taking punch after punch. I tell him in the rules meeting, I say, hey, that's when I'm going to lean in and say, I need you to move or I'm going to stop the fight, regardless of what you think is going on. That kind of plays in the obey my commands at all times. It's not just break, fight, stop, start. If I tell you to move, it's because I'm seeing the impression that you might be really hurt. I don't know what's going on in your head. The only way I can, verify that you're not hurt is when I say move, and I see you try and scramble to a new position. I say, oh, okay, he's still with me. He's still good. If you stay still, I have to guess, and I'm always going to guess on the side of safety anymore, especially with how under the radar we are these days. So, we're under the microscope for everything.
Yep. All right. Yeah, that was. I think that's we're at the time. Is that right?
I got one quick question before we let you go here. Okay. Do you think that all these referees should at some point in their career have an amateur fight or something like that, just to get in there and see that other side of it?
You know what? The sport is kind of graduating right now to, we're still new. It's a new sport. We're only 25 years in, in the grand scheme of everything. we are pretty much getting to the point now where the new we just took on a new referee in Pennsylvania here last Saturday. He became the first African American sanctioned referee in Pennsylvania.
Wow.
David Osagi. This guy speaks 5 languages. Okay, he has a black belt in judo, a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I mean, this guy's he's way more qualified than I was when I started.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
kind of got to know more than one language now too.
Yeah. He can stop your fight 5 different ways. But yeah, we're getting to the point now where guys, you might not have to have an amateur fight, but the days of, hey, my old golfing buddy, I'm going to have him referee the fight this week, those are over, man. Yeah. No commission wants to have to answer for an incompetent or an unqualified referee. As the older guys are phasing out, the new guys that they're picking, they are your amateur and your professional fighters. They are your jiu-jitsu black belts. They are your judo black belts. I mean, you're going to come in. The sport's evolving. You're going to come into a new era where everybody in that cage is pretty freaking knowledgeable. You know, nobody's a rookie there. They know the holds. They know the positions. They've seen 1,000 UFC fights. They know what's going on. So maybe not have to have had an amateur fight per se, but you're going to have qualified guys in the cage pretty much from here on out. So
yeah.
That's very good. I mean, that's great to hear.
What we like to do at this point in our interviews, Bill, is we hand the imaginary microphone over to you. If you have any shout outs, anything else you want to get on the table, I don't know if you have any sponsors or anything at all, the floor is all yours.
Referee sponsors, I wish, man. I give a shout out to Yingling, but they still charge me $24 a case, so I guess there's no sponsorship there. But the only people I'd like to thank, back when I was doing my amateur thing, I'd like to thank Ted, man. He's covered a lot of fighters. You know, without you guys doing what you're doing, the sport doesn't exist. Without the fans, whether you love Conor McGregor or hate him, or you love Brock Lesnar or hate him, or you're Ronda Rousey, lover or hater, you know, they just want you to tune in. The sport and the show is here because of you guys. Without you guys, it's nothing. So I thank you guys. Without you guys covering it and showing an interest, I have no cage to officiate in. The fighters have no stage to perform on if nobody's watching. So thanks to Ted for covering me while I was an amateur. Thanks to you for running your podcast and covering the sport. Thanks for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it.
Really
and
quick.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you for the tough job that you guys do. I mean, it seems like a lot of times you get no respect. You know, it's
terrible.
It's either you're stopping it too soon, you're stopping it too late. So we really appreciate the job that you guys do.
Hey, I read stuff online all the time. You know, this ref sucks, that ref sucks. Bill Bookwalter sucks. Words do hurt.
Really quick, where can everybody find you on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter? Where can everybody find you?
On Facebook, I'm just straight Bill Bookwalter. I don't have an Instagram. I don't have a Twitter. It's, you know, Facebook's enough. I can barely keep up with nonsense on Facebook. You know, so I'm around. Come to a local MMA event in Pennsylvania or Jersey. I'm around. You'll see me. Walk up, shake my hand, say hi, high five. Tell me I suck. Tell me I'm good. Either way, thanks for.
Well, the one thing that we really appreciate is that you go in there and you protect these fighters the best that you can. Thank you so much, Bill. Have a great night and a great career.